Hi students, welcome to module number 2, an introduction to plants, where we'll explore what is a plant, how do we distinguish different groups of plants, and we'll answer the questions, why are plants so foundational, fundamental to patterns of life on Earth, and why are they fundamentally important to us as individuals and to human societies in general. What is a plant? Science has identified 5 characteristics that are used to distinguish plants from other organisms. And those 5 characteristics are cell type, cell wall, whether the organism has a cell wall or not, and what it's made of, its metabolic strategy, its reproductive strategy, and its growth strategy. And plants are right here in this column. We can see that plants, cell type, and they have a eukaryotic cell type, which means the cells tend to be much larger and they're more complex than, for example, bacteria. That's very small cells and they're very simple. And these cells have DNA packaged in chromosomes inside of a nucleus, and they have organelle that perform a variety of functions. Plants are multicellular, which means that they're macroscopic. We can see them with our eyes. A redwood tree can be 300 feet tall. It consists of billions and billions of cells. Again, in contrast to bacteria that tend to be unicellular. Plants produce cell walls made out of cellulose. And there are several other groups of organisms that also produce cell walls. Bacteria, algae, and fungi all produce cell walls. But bacteria and fungi don't make cell walls with cellulose. So the presence or absence of cell walls, animals don't produce cell walls, is a really good way to distinguish plants from other types of organisms. Plant metabolism, plants are autotrophic, which means that they are photosynthetic. They can take the energy from sunlight and produce energy-rich sugars to fuel their energy requirements. In contrast to fungi and animals that are heterotrophic, they don't do photosynthesis, so they have to consume or absorb energy from plants in order to survive. Plants reproduce both sexually and asexually. We'll spend quite a bit of time talking about that. And then plant growth patterns are indeterminate, which means in theory, plants can grow indefinitely if provided with enough resources. In contrast, animal growth patterns are determinate. They're preset, they're genetically predetermined. And that will become a really important one in the next module. Okay, there are 4 major plant groups that grow on land. We want to distinguish those from algae that are very similar to plants. Land plants actually evolved from green algae, but green algae grow in bodies of water, in oceans and lakes, and terrestrial plants grow on land. So that's the big thing that distinguishes green algae from land plants. And then among the 4 major groups of land plants, mosses, ferns, conifers, and flowering plants, there are 3 characteristics that we use to distinguish them: vascular tissue, seeds, and flowers. So everything inside of the circle will have that characteristic. Mosses are different from the other 3 groups of land plants because they don't have vascular tissue. Ferns are different from conifers or cone-bearing plants and flowering plants in that they don't produce seeds. Both conifers and flowering plants produce seeds. And then cone-bearing plants are different from flowering plants in that they don't produce flowers and fruits. Okay, our third learning outcome is to outline the central role of photosynthesis in life on Earth and why it's so fundamentally important. So let's look at this photo right here. This is a microscope photo. I'll take a tree leaf and you put it under a microscope and you can see these cells right here. These are mesophyll cells and they're packed with these little green chloroplasts. There are dozens, sometimes even hundreds of chloroplasts in a single mesophyll cell. And what we've done is we've taken one of these chloroplast cells and just created a diagram of the chloroplast. And in the chloroplast, energy-poor inorganic molecules that include water and carbon dioxide with energy from sunlight that's absorbed by chlorophyll are transformed into organic molecules carbon-based molecules that then are energy rich. So the final product of photosynthesis are energy organic rich sugars. Another byproduct of photosynthesis is oxygen. So photosynthesis has produced most of the world's oxygen. And 99% of organisms on Earth would die in the absence of this oxygen. So the byproduct of oxygen produced in photosynthesis is fundamentally important to life on planet Earth. Next, the sugar that's produced in photosynthesis, an energy-rich sugar molecule, then becomes the foundation of the biological food web upon which all organisms depend, particularly heterotrophic organisms like fungi and animals. We have to get our energy by eating plants directly or eating an animal that's eaten a plant. And then as we eat our food, the organic chemistry is full of energy, but it also becomes the building blocks from which organisms construct cells, tissues, and organs. So for example, I ate my breakfast this morning, and the plants that I consumed will be broken down in my digestive system, and those organic building blocks will then be used to construct my cells, tissues, and organs so that I can maintain living. The fourth thing that photosynthesis has done is photosynthesis that happened long time ago, eons of time in the past. There were plants that were growing on the Earth's surface. They absorbed sunlight. They produced energy-rich sugars. And then those plants became buried. And as they got buried deeper, they experienced extreme pressures. And the energy in those plant tissues, as they broke down and experienced pressure, were converted into fossil fuels. The three major fossil fuels being natural gas, oil, and coal. And humans, since the Industrial Revolution, have extracted those fossil fuels from deep in the earth and have burned them or combusted them to create energy to generate the world's economies. Right? So the global economy has been built, and the emergence of developing nations has been built on the burning of fossil fuels, which were prehistoric plants. And that energy in the fossil fuels were the products of photosynthesis eons ago. There are 5 important impacts that plants have on people and human society. The first is food. So as plants do photosynthesis, they store a lot of energy in their tissues, and we eat those, mostly in the forms of wheat, rice, corn, potato, cassava, and sweet potato, which makes up 80% of human caloric intake. These are known as the foundation foods that we eat. But in addition to that, we also, from plants, get food that tastes good. So we don't eat food just to get energy. We also eat food because we enjoy it. And what makes food taste good are spices. And so if we think about how we flavor food, what gives it its flavor, we think of garlic, we think of onions, we think of spices. And these are secondary compounds that are produced by plants, and then we gather them and use them to make food taste delicious. The second thing that plants do for people is provide medicine. And so a lot of, there's thousands of secondary compounds produced by plants, and humans have co-opted those secondary compounds to make prescription drugs and cures that we use to treat diseases. Third, plants provide fuel, shelter, and clothing. They provide our lifestyle. So think about your lifestyle and then connect your lifestyle to plants. So the house that you live in, the bed that you sleep in, the paper products that you use, the clothes that you wear, almost everything that you possess in your life, right, that is part of your lifestyle, is derived from plant fibers. Plants beautify the earth. So in contrast, we're looking at the surface of Mars here, and while I think that in terms of a mineral surface, it's beautiful, compare this to the incredible landscapes that you've seen as you've traveled the Earth, or as you've watched the Planet Earth series, for example. You think about the tropical rainforests, you think about the grasslands, the savannas, the deciduous forests. We just have these beautiful landscapes across the surface of our planet, and a lot of those, the foundation of those are plants. And then finally, plants drive the global cycles that allow life to exist on Earth. So plants regulate surface temperature and keep it in an even range that supports life. And then plants drive the global carbon, nitrogen, and water cycles that life depends upon. And so you see here, there's this forest depicted here, and you can see that the plant photosynthesis and respiration is driving, right, these global cycles that allow humans and all life to exist on Earth. And that is the end of module 2.